Good morning. Good morning.
Friday quiz.
Wow. How are we all? It's the Friday quiz, guys. It's the Friday quiz. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, all of you. How are you? Ellen, Ellery, Karen, Margaret, Lynn, Raspberry Mojito Girl, Karen McMullen, Helen, Lucy Williams. Hope you're all well. Good morning. It's Friday. It's Friday. It's Friday. It's been a weird couple of weeks. Oh, yeah. New jingle. Welcome. How are we all? Sky Talon. Does that mean you're like an eagle's claw, Sky Talon? I haven't seen your name before. Morning, Sky Talon. Welcome. Swooping in and all that kind of stuff. Selena Lou Fogg. Good morning. Amy R. Good morning. Karen McMullen. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all good. My little flirtation with puberty seems to be over. My spot seems to be going. Thank you for all your lovely messages for Nanny Di. It was a challenging day yesterday, an interesting day, an illuminating day, a transformational day, you could say. I'm sure she'll be telling you more about it when you see her next. How are we all? Oh, guys, Beetlejuice is out today. Morning, Russ. It's Loose Women's 25 years. Bloody hell. Go and check out Nadia's very funny post, waking up in bed with her other long-term partner, Ms. K. Adams. So big congratulations there. Wow, big celebrations happening there. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's going to be many hangover molecules tomorrow. Beetlejuice is out this weekend. It's all sorts going on. Morning, Anne Hudd. Very exciting news. Designs have come in for the 5-year family guest member badges. Oh yeah, we're getting there as we hit January. Some of you guys who haven't been driven, or maybe you have been driven mad by us. Maybe you have, and that's why you've stayed around for so long. But you're all going to be getting a pin badge that, as you remember, you must not use them in any kind of aggressive fashion. But I remember using them to poke people in class, which is so much fun. So looking forward to getting those done and made. So good morning. What are we going to talk about today? So we're going to be talking about the incredibly shocking Jeremy Kyle footage, or as some observers have said, was it as shocking as we think, is it more shocking given the awful end result, which was, of course, Steve Diamond taking his life? Or if he hadn't taken his life, would we have looked at this footage, which we're going to show you, and just thought, oh right, yeah, it's another episode of Jeremy Kyle? And I think that seems like a kind of weird kind of thing to kind of home in on, but I think it's an important detail. Of course, this is particularly awful, this story, because of what happened to Steve Diamond, him taking his life or him dying subsequent to the show. But was the appetite for what we watched in that show so sort of fixed, and were we so numb to the implications of it and our desire to have the fix that in fact the footage, divorced from what happened after the event, is it any worse than anything you remember on the show? We'll also talk about culpability. Who do you feel is to blame? It's interesting, on the poll on Coffee Moaning, excuse me for a moment, I'm just looking at the Coffee Moaning Instagram account, looking at the poll where we asked who was to blame. The poll choices were Kyle, the production, the audience, and the appetite for this conflict, or all of the above. Now, the vast majority, 57%, have said all of the above. Only 8% say Jeremy Kyle. And then the next section is production, 19%. And of course, the creation of the appetite happens with production, doesn't it? Just because an audience wants, it's like gladiatorial, isn't it? Just because an audience wants blood, should you give them blood? Anyway, we're going to talk about that and show that footage. A couple of girls who have hit the news, they're getting mad about this on the radio, who have been sent home on their first day at school because of the colour of their hair. Has the world gone mad, or baked into the rules and regulations of how you should appear at school, is there something more? Is it about conformity? Is it about control? Is it about being an agreeable member of society? Is it about following rules, etc., etc.? And the tragedy of the Georgia school shooting on Wednesday earlier this week J.D. Vance, Trump's vice presidential running mate, has said school shootings are a fact of life. He didn't actually say it in as throwaway fashion as you could be led to believe by some of the headlines. But yeah, is it a fact of life in America? School shootings, are they? Is it just something you have to prepare for and accept? Is there anything that can be done to change it? So let's get. So shall we have a let's jump in on let's jump in on the Jeremy Kyle show and the Steve Diamond case. This is obviously Jeremy Kyle was in court yesterday. There's an inquiry into his death. Steve Diamond, 63, was found dead at his home in May 2019, 7 days after he failed a lie detector test whilst filming the Jeremy Kyle show. This, in part, and really quite significantly, led to the demise of not only that show, but many sort of conflict-driven gladiatorial shows like that. Who here, just put your hand in the air. Who here admits that you were an avid viewer or would watch it, or when you saw clips of it, you'd watch it? I mean, it's very much that sort of Jerry Springer. I have to say, I remember back in the day when you saw clips from it, it's terrible, isn't it? It sort of almost speaks to that kind of brutal 90s. Was it the 90s? You just didn't really see it. We didn't see things for what they were. Victoria Moore, yes, I'm ashamed now to say I did. I mean, we all did. I mean, I did. Everyone watched them and kind of. Susan Mann, I couldn't watch Jeremy Kyle either. I find him repulsive. I mean, I think, one of the things that Jeremy Kyle has gone to great lengths to stress in court is that he was playing a character, or that he is playing an embellishment of himself, and that he presented that across the show all the time. Susan Selling, unfortunately, seems to be. What have I done? Hang on. What have I done? Oh, God, sorry. I just made the screen big. You were everywhere. Good God. Just one second. Anne Murray, it brought in the audience numbers. He already had depression. Don't think it should have been done. It did say one lie would compromise the whole test. Well, this is interesting. Yeah, he did take a lie detector. And there is this idea that if you trigger one lie, even if you weren't lying, but maybe nerves and anxiety and what have you, it makes all of the subsequent questions lies, or present as a lie. So they've been proven to not be reliable. So, I mean, and again, this is less an inquiry to prosecute. The end of this, it's about, they just want to arrive at culpability and responsibility. And Kyle very much insisted and insists that the guests that were coming on the show knew what they were getting into. Now, I want to ask you this question. There was a TV producer on the radio today, and he made a very interesting point, an important point. And I've made this point many times when we've been making shows like makeover shows and what have you, where you walk into the lives of, and I hate using the term ordinary people, we're all ordinary people, but you walk into people everyday lives that don't normally intersect with showbiz, for want of a better expression, TV or what have you. And, even in production, you get a lot of kind of, how do you put this politely? You get a lot of sort of middle-class people, kids coming into the industry who think that, they just take it for granted, really, the specialness of the career that they're in. And what that can lead to is a certain sort of briskness when going into members of the public's homes. And we'd always have big production meetings where I'd say, look, for this family that we're going into their home, we're going to do stuff in their house. Yes, we're looking for the emotional story. But at the end of the day, for this family, this potentially, we're not bigging ourselves up, just potentially, they're on the show, they're excited. This could be one of the biggest things that they do. And it could be certainly something that they want to talk about, share about, remember, etc. It's important to them. For us, it's one of 20 episodes and 20 families, but for them, they're the family. And it's important that we make them feel like that. So it's interesting when Jeremy Kyle uses this defense or this explanation of, every guest knew what they were getting into. On one level, yes, they did. And it was about having a little scintilla or a little moment of fame and notoriety, or to be, to be important, to be made to feel important and be seen for a moment, for a day. But I would say, yes, to a degree, they knew what they were getting into. but absolutely not. Duty of care doesn't stop at the point that a release form is signed, the guest is in the studio, and they're good to go. Duty of care, in my book, is something that's a constantly evolving process where you are kind of checking it. Now, that's not to say that the production didn't have on-hand therapists, they didn't have aftercare, etc. But what happens when you start to roll out these shows and you make, hundreds of episodes and episodes is you have a rolling, you'll hire a studio for the day. 5 episodes will be coming through. Banks of producers and researchers and runners will be looking after each people. By its nature, it becomes sausage factory, and a procedure kicks in. And what can easily happen is you lose sight of the intimacies or intricacies of certain people. And I think no amount of saying people knew what they were getting into, I don't think anyone really knows what they're getting into. I don't even think some presenters and famous people necessarily know what they're getting into when they go on TV and say things and do things. And also Russ makes a really interesting point. To what extent were the stories the real stories? What cumin and spice was added to the top of some of these stories? We all look for, even in us having a limit on what we put in the title of these coffee moanings, you're looking for a way to both grab and be accurate, to sort of click and be concise. And that can happen also with these kind of stories. Deborah R. People knew what the show was about and volunteered to go on. We have to have some self-responsibility. I agree, and I think everything I've just said kind of speaks to this. I think yes, there are two sides to the equation. Absolutely, there is the responsibility and knowing that this is going to lead to something. But I do also think that the responsibility of the show could at times be a little bit more. What's the word? A little bit like with that. I'm always bemoaning the fact that a politician seems to lack the human touch. I just think that can be lost sometimes, and that's spoken from experience. So I'm going to show the clip. It is a bit distressing because it's the Jeremy Kyle show. So this is the clip that was unaired. That's quite unedifying to watch. So if you don't fancy seeing a struggling contributor who we now know later on took his life, then please maybe pause for a moment.
Women have you met online on that POF thing?
What, before I met Jane?
Yeah.
I think about 3 or 4.
Since the start of your relationship with Jane, have you passionately kissed anyone else? She said no. Why did she say no, Steve?
Because I was telling the
Tess
truth.
says you're a liar, pal. Just so you're aware, you failed every single question.
Oh my God, I was never unfaithful.
Gotta go and talk to her.
Oh no. But I wasn't. I've never been unfaithful.
Quite interesting. I'm really sorry. You're better than that, by the way. I find it quite interesting that the audience thought you were telling the truth. I wouldn't trust you with a chocolate button, mate. Honestly, you are. I don't think you even know what the truth is.
No, you've done it. You've done everything. You've done it. Everything.
Jane, I haven't.
So you go to your fish and you meet her and everything. So that's wrong, is it?
Yes, I swear
So
to
the
God.
serial liar goes into the Jeremy Kyle lie detector and gets called a liar, and my test's wrong, yeah?
I swear to God. I'll swear on anything.
Just all calm
I
down a
swear
minute.
to God.
Don't start crying, mate. I can't. The hardest thing of my job is I'm paid to read it out. You asked us to do that. Why would you fail? Darling, take a breath. Why would you fail?
I haven't been.
Have you lied about anything in that test? Did you kiss somebody but not have sex with them? Has something happened?
No.
Do you go into that test and you lie? Even when you split up, come on, I'm doing my best for you.
And I'm being straight. I'm being so straight. I am being so straight, Jeremy. I've never been more straight than this.
Let me tell you what I know. I don't actually take any pleasure in this at all, contrary to what some people
I
think.
honestly thought I was going to cakewalk it.
I mean, I think what's staggering about that is what was being broadcast. I mean, obviously, he was a grown man. He went in. He knew that the lie detector was going to happen. He came on. The lie detector test was going to be taken. he knew that in taking it, there was going to be that, it's the extent to which, suicide ideation or his mental health condition could have been known, should have been known. And I mean, I think what this speaks to is a lot of people feel, okay, so these kind of combative chat shows where people essentially attack each other and their lives fall apart on stage. This wasn't ever broadcast. That's what I'm saying. This is unaired footage that was shown at the inquiry. What's interesting is some people feel that TV, or does anyone agree with this? Do you agree with this? Do you feel that TV, okay, has turned away from these kind of shows? A very good point, actually. Vintage verbiage feels like medieval stocks. Like this, you sit in with your hands and your feet, and you get stuff thrown at you. With Jeremy Kyle as the court jester, I think in Jeremy Kyle's absolute defence, it was the shtick, it was the show, and I think that speaks to the fact that the vast majority of people, even in this poll, see him as a part of it. But he's a part of it insofar as the production oversight occurred. I mean, can you cater for absolutely everyone's mental health in these shows? It's even in some of the most sort of thorough mental health assessments and psychotherapy, sessions and what have you. Just because you can go through all the kind of therapeutic stuff to get to the right place on an assessment of someone, but you can't cater for a shift in that, can you? After the event, you can't cater for how a new experience is going to impact on them. You can't cater for what might trigger a dip or a surge or a do you know what I mean? So in that sense, the argument is just don't make the shows. Jeremy Kyle is apologizing. It's still hammering the poor guy while he's crying. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, isn't it? It's because you are creating an embellished reality. So, for example, the whole genre of controlled reality. Who remembers things like Wife Swap? The whole thing with Wife Swap was this was made. This is an interesting case, Wife Swap. It was made in the documentary department, I think, at Channel 4. But it was controlled reality. And what they mean by controlled reality is you put in, forget things like Big Brother and or Love Island. Controlled reality is where you put in some sort of rules, if you like, or you put in some pressure points that the producers are creating that are kind of realish and authentic, but that will generate drama. And those are the kind of what you call the formatting beat points. So, one goes over to here, one goes over to there, one has to do the cooking for you know what I mean? Controlled reality. And in a sense, in these shows, the controlled aspect of the reality is the tone of the show and really the presenter and the way in which he presents. It's a really tricky one. It's a really tricky one. But some people think, do you agree, that this kind of thing is now creeping into shows like dating shows and Too Hot to Handle and all that kind of stuff. What do you think? Do you agree? James Flanagan, I feel the show relied on people who weren't in a good place to sign up to a show like this. I can't understand and never will. Well, I think, again, James, I know what you mean, but I think what this speaks to and what we really need to remember is for some people, yes, I think for some people there might have been the genuine hope and desire that something could be resolved. Maybe with this chap, tragically, he really wanted to prove and thought he could prove with the lie detector that he'd done nothing wrong. And also you get a sort of moment in the spotlight. It's like this producer was saying today. They get a car to pick them up, they get a dressing room, etc. Robin, absolutely. The Channel 4 documentary did talk to this. The idea that some staff sort of talked about winding people up prior to going on stage. When you don't think a man who's been married 3 times should be giving a relationship advice. Straight from the hip there, Elspot. That's why a lie detector test is not admissible in court, Mo Power. And Jeremy Kyle should have said that before announcing the results. But then, yes, interesting point that. But then if he'd announced that before releasing the results, he'd have lost the build of drama, right? In a show like that. Claire Smiley, hope you're well, sweetie. Oh, just missed your comment. Where are you? Most guests are vulnerable. I know they knew on the show. Yeah. I think knowing the show, it's like seeing something on television is very different to doing it yourself and going through it with all of the implications that it has. And so, It's a tragic situation. This tragic story. Jeremy Kyle said this. He said he stood by the idea that the structure of the show was that the stories featured were a journey containing both conflict and resolution. And he talked about, actually, Jeremy Kyle does say at one point that he talked about the fact that he tried to, Kyle denied encouraging the audience to turn against Mr. Diamond, saying, not at all, I asked them to give them a round of applause. He said that the clip showed he tried to de-escalate and calm the situation rather than inflaming it. He believes that he showed empathy within the clip. Well, I think I'll leave that one to all of you to decide. Laura Lou, finally, it was an uncomfortable format to watch. A certain type of people on the show being mostly watched by people laughing and mocking them. Yeah, not pleasant. Christos, hi Christos. I believe they went along to follow the Jerry Springer format. Something was bound to go wrong. And it did. It's like walking a tightrope and waiting for that moment for it to go wrong. Yeah. Okay, so that's the Jeremy Kyle. Suspended over hair dye. This girl here has been suspended from school, was sent home from school on her first day at school for having red hair. And this girl, this is all in the press, this is all in the LBC, the Daily Mail reporting this. And this young girl who's sort of gone for something of it's a little bit sort of Cruella de Vil, the hair, isn't it? The split duotone. These two children were sent home on their first days of school. Should they have been sent home on their first day of school? The mother's fury as two girls sent home on the same day. Oak Grove School in Milton Keynes, Ellie Harding was sent home for having red hair and false eyelashes against uniform policy. What do you think of uniform policy? So this is the uniform policy. It gets much more complicated, this, when you get to ethnic minorities, ethnic groups, culturally specific, hair, ways to wear hair care, etc. It shifts and changes across. And many of the schools, looking at the rules of the schools in question, it's about maintaining your hair as its natural hair color. Do you think maintaining natural hair color is a rule that should be enforced, given the nation's kind of difficulty with school absences, expulsions, children's anxiety, etc.? What do you think, guys? Elsa Pop, this makes my blood boil. Nice to see schools more bothered about hair color than dealing with bullies. Absolutely. I mean, a number of teachers have talked about this, saying, look, we've got bigger problems with things like knife crime, drugs, etc. So, but some would argue that the thin end of the wedge, at the edge, wedge, is allowing children to kind of come in with earrings. I mean, the amount of times, our kids over the years when they've been in schools have said to us, oh, you're not allowed to do this or you've got to do that. And it's amazing. You just go, oh, all right, that's annoying, but it's all right. Susan Sellings, uniforms are way, way overpriced. Claire Smiley says it's crazy, crazy, crazy. Laura Lou, I love my kids being in uniform. I hate the day they can wear what they like. It just highlights the kids that can't afford brands. I've always said that. I mean, I never wore a school uniform in my life. I'm trying to remember what the deal was with hair. I mean, I remember kids having sort of shaved heads. But could you in any way, Mo Power, including different hair colors and piercings, could you in any way say, I mean, is any kid going to find this distracting to be wearing the sort of eyelashes, fake eyelashes, and having red hair or hair like that? I mean, is it the hair that's the problem? Or is it the if the hair is on the head of a child, and sometimes I wonder about this, if the hair in question is on the head of a child, and I'm not suggesting this is the case with these two, of a child that's quite sort of the provocateur, a little bit kind of fancies themselves, is always a bit disruptive, is the child that when they come in and go, hey, look what I've got and look what I've done, other kids are like, oh, I need to do that. Will a school run to mayhem and complete anarchy if kids are allowed to have their own hair colors? If you said to all the children in school, you can have whatever hair color you want, do you think they'd all come in the next day with different hair? Christine Bett, hair coloring is allowed in my son's school. Just because you are bigger, problems doesn't mean you should tackle the low-level disruptive. You shouldn't tackle the low-level disruptive. Good point, DK1612. Just because there are bigger problems. Good point. We say it often. We can deal with more than one thing at the same time, or we should try. Good point. Kerry Bedford. Okay, but on that point, DK, just going back to you before I come back to Kerry, just explain to me, what is... I mean, obviously, there needs to be rules. Otherwise, there would be... You need to go to a lesson at this time and do this. I think one of the best rules you could have in a school is just ban phones. And everything else will follow, honestly. Just ban phones in school. Some company needs to come up with some kind of really sort of, foolproof kind of storage system that's affordable for schools. And then you won't have all that comparative, and you won't have all the bullying, and you won't have all that stuff. You won't have, what's it called? Digital flashing. I mean, there were signs on the underground yesterday talking about digital flashing and stuff like that. Hi, Sky Talon. You've become a new member. Welcome, Sky Talon. Kerry Bedford. No, disgusting. I used to have my hair brown at the back and yellow blonde at the front, but never got sent home in the 80s. The world has gone mad. Imagine Lisa, our friend, not being able to go to school due to her hair color. Her hair's fantastic. I mean, here's the thing. I think my feeling, my gut on this is it's ridiculous to send a kid home for hair color. Because my other issue with school in general is yes, you need to get information and education into kids, of course. And I think you should be able to do that in a way that is more suitable to individual kids, i.e. there's different ways of doing it for different kids. Some may be homeschooled, some may not, some may do partially homeschooled, some may need smaller classes, etc. We should be able to cater for all needs. But should we then be looking for conformity outside of that? Because then you start to think, is school actually just about making everyone be very obedient and behave? Is this where the programming starts? Or is that being too Big Brother about it all? What was the comment that was just coming up here? Sarah Roberts. I think I don't have an issue with school rules because my daughter isn't bothered about it. If she felt strongly, I'd stick up for her, as I know hair color doesn't determine student engagement. That's my point. I mean, isn't it as important in a school system to encourage kids to both be a member of society, care and look out for their kind of, their fellow students, their peer group, but also be able to express their individuality? And maybe these kids doing this are just needing to express their individuality a little bit more. Also, for some children, body dysmorphia, mental health issues, being on the autistic spectrum, these can, some of the kind of habits or kind of processes that help kids manage these kind of issues can be about appearance. Christos, you're talking from experience. You've been in the army. Uniformity is one thing, but imposing rules like this is just pointless. School shouldn't be just exams and tests, but rather cultivating personalities and characters for a better societal balance. I agree. And in fact, you could argue, what about in the art? Is school really low-level military control? James Flanagan, got Stephanie. What's so different to all the perms I had and the overuse of hairspray? James, sorry. Everybody in my school was like sheep. We all had to wear the same in everything, express no personality. We all looked like a herd of sheep. And do you think that has that trickled into grown-up life, that feeling like sheep? Did you feel, continuing the analogy, penned in? Abby Reed, kids should be encouraged to express themselves rather than follow the masses. Self-expression is huge. It's a way of boosting confidence, not conformity. I agree. I suppose the dilemma faced by teachers and schools is how do you encourage self-expression and it doesn't get so out of hand? We have madness, but I just don't necessarily think hair color, doing something with your hair isn't going to incite madness, is it? You're not going to sit in a class and see someone with red hair and then everyone else in the class is going to, I don't know, sort of smash tables up and go, she's got red hair. Now look at her hair. I've got to make my hair red. Farida Rahman, I wonder if anyone has looked at the difference in kids and their academic ability depending on whether their school was uniformed or not uniformed. What a great idea for a study. I'd be fascinated in that because, as I say, I was unusual. My primary school and my secondary school didn't have uniforms. I believe my secondary school, Holland Park, has subsequently I think they now have uniforms. I've always understood the argument with uniforms around for those families who can't afford to keep up with the Joneses and get the sort of, the label shoes and Nike and all this stuff, that, you know, that it kind of, it's an equalizer. But also school uniforms are so bloody expensive. You may as well just go and get some Nike fucking trainers. James Flanagan, when you leave school and go into the real world, you think, what the fuck? I like that, James. When you leave school and go out in the real world, you think, what the fuck was that all about? But I wonder, here, okay, I'm just going to throw a sinister thought at you for a minute. And this is not why we homeschooled our kids. Our youngest is in school and they're at college. But here's the thing. I do wonder whether this is all about early ages. I don't think there's any consciousness in this. We've just inherited the educative system we've got. But I think at some point in the past, this was about making the population behave. And conforming is important at a young age. I remember filming in a school once. We were filming something else, not about the school, and we had to clear a room and they had to get the students out, and it was a private school. The children were walked from one classroom to another to make way for us and the crew and everything. And as they walked out, I was horrified by, isn't this weird, but maybe this is just me. They were so silent. They looked like they had been told to, they just didn't look like they were having any fun being 8 or 9. They all walked forward. They looked like they were in a sort of like The Handmaid's Tale. And I turned around to someone and I said, God, they don't look like a happy bunch, do they? But maybe, they've been told this is how you behave when the public comes in. This is how you behave if a crew comes in. This is how you must present to the world. And does that just bed in somewhere? Julie Neary. Children need to express themselves, also being in a safe place to do so. Yeah, I always remember even when I was doing my when I was doing my MA, the examiner came in, it was film school, and they said, this is your only time to experiment. The rest of life is going to control you. It's like, yeah, fuck that shit. Don't want to be controlled. Blanco, is it Blanco? Blanco starts with lashes, ends up in plastic surgery addicts. Wow. Okay. Interesting though. Good point, because I suppose maybe we don't want any of our kids at school thinking about their eyelashes. And if some red-headed firebrand of a kid comes in with great long lashes, suddenly your kids are coming. There's nothing worse, is there, when your kids come and go, oh, such and such has got such and such. And you're like, oh, fuck you now. And you feel like, you think to yourself, oh, thanks, Thingy Bob's parents, for letting them do that. Now our kid wants to do that. Do you get that? I know what that's like. It's nothing worse than, like a kid comes and go, oh, well, those parents smoke smack with their kids. And it's like, great. I'm really pleased. I'm not smoking smack with you. So there you go. That hasn't happened. Okay, moving on, because we've got the quiz of the week at the end here, though I see that Faith isn't in the room, so she's going to miss it this week. So let me just get rid of... Right, so that's that. The awfulness of the school shooting on Wednesday... just awful. 14-year-old boy, Colt Gray, who's been accused of killed 4 people at high school in the US state of Georgia. They've just arrested the shooter's father, Colin Gray, who's 54, who had bought or given the boy, Colt Gray, a gun for Christmas. So the father has now also been arrested. Stacey, bless you, sweetie. Very kind, very kind. I'll thank you at the end, darling. Very, very sweet. So the father is being prosecuted too for murder and arms possession and supply. The boy is going to be charged as an adult. It's just awful. The father and the son were threatening to shoot at the school. Here are some images from the aftermath. Here they are. Colt Gray, the shooter on the left, and his father clearly came from a chaotic home. His mother was addicted to drugs, father accused of domestic abuse, all sorts of struggles going there. Well, J.D. Vance, Trump's vice presidential candidate, says this, that he says that school shootings are a fact of life. He's called for more security in classrooms rather than gun control. Now, a friend of mine who's in America, who has a child in a school in America, talked about the fact that kids in America, I mean, any Americans here, you'll be able to concur or not. Many schools, maybe not all schools, but many schools in America, they do what they call school shooting drills, which is petrifying. They actually go through sort of, like you have a fire alarm in a British school. They'll have a school shooting drill in which, just one second. Yeah, they have school shooting drills, and can you imagine your child just going to school and getting used to the idea that that's even a possibility that could happen? So JD Vance says, he says the Republican vice presidential nominee said to an audience of supporters in Arizona, if these psychos are going to go after our kids, we've got to be prepared for it. We don't have to like the reality that we live in, but it is the reality we live in. We've got to deal with it. And he then says, I don't like that this is a fact of life, but if you are a psycho and you want to make headlines, you realize that our schools are soft targets. We've got to bolster security at schools. We've got to bolster security so if a psycho wants to walk through the front door and kill a bunch of children, they're not able to. Is there not a bit of backward thinking going on here? Any Americans here who believe in the gun lobby, please share your thought. 1 a week exactly is the average, Me Too. Ellen, America does have a completely different culture when it comes to guns. Very strong feelings pro individuals having guns. I don't think we can comprehend here. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, when Robin Williams stood up in his stand-up and said, the whatever the 6th, 7th, 4th Amendment of the Constitution, the right to bear arms, or as he said, the right to arm bears. I don't think we understand how bedded into American culture it is. And I think the problem with America is, and unfortunately we're heading that way here with knife crime, I think. I think there's always a tipping point where many people make not even an intellectual decision, but an emotional decision. Second Amendment, thank you. They make an emotional decision, and many youngsters certainly in London do and around the country, which is they don't want to, say in the UK, carry a knife. And they also know that all the statistics show that if you do, you're more than likely to be injured or potentially killed by your own weapon. But the feeling is that you have to, just in case. And I think the just in caseness, I think there are now so many weapons in America that if you've got just a small proportion, say you had a huge amnesty and most guns were handed in, and you had a huge amnesty in America, there'll still be enough people with guns, or the feeling that there are enough guns out there for enough people to say, no, not taking the risk, not taking the risk. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? So when he says it's a fact of life, is he right to say that they need to deal with making schools more secure? Because are we all being idealists when we say ban gun ownership, ban certain types of guns? Will we ever get enough statistics, given as MeTube says there's one shooting a week? Will there ever be any time or enough time to be able to look at the stats and go, banning automatic rifles has had a direct impact on there being fewer shootings, or have those shootings just moved over to different guns? Do you get what I mean? Hilary Daly. They sell school bags for young kids containing capsules with red liquid in which the kid can break and pretend to be shot in case of a shooting so that the killer leaves him. Really? You are joking. Absolutely horrendous. So play dead. I mean, I know that in this instance of a friend who had to, when they went through the school drill, they do go through the hierarchy of knowing when someone's banging on a door to come in, whether, so say a student of yours, a friend, is outside and you're in a class full of all your other friends. They go through the process of potentially having to leave the one out in order to protect the many. I mean, imagine, it's almost weird. It's almost like by having to teach kids to cater for this, you kind of also equip those kids who are maybe more dysfunctional and inclined towards it to think, this is something that's tangible. Do you get me? It's like if you talk about it too much, you call it, in a sense. Very dark times. Very, very dark times. You're absolutely right. Feels like a different world, Russ. But it does feel like a different world. And I think whilst gun crime is on the increase in the UK, I do think we are in a very similar situation here with knife crime. I really do. Oh, Billy Talon. Let's have a look at this. Lots of Talons today. As an American living in the UK and previous gun owner, banning weapons in the US would only take them out of the hands, interestingly, of legal gun owners who can no longer protect themselves. Sadly, it's the world now. And I think what you're saying there, Billy, is an inconvenient and unpalatable truth. It's like, it's like the fight against drugs, the fight against anything. More often than not, if you ban anything, you simply drive it all underground. There becomes a bigger, if you like, hidden economy, doesn't it, of the sort of the dark web and all that malarkey. You're right. But what does that, so whilst I in principle agree with what you're saying, Billy, what do you think, guys, here? It's really useful to have an American telling us this in the UK. Where's the end point? That just everyone has guns. So is, in this sense, what you're saying, Billy, JD Vance, right, in that you have to make places more secure? Is that the only solution? No, we don't. No, you're absolutely right, Mitch. That's a very good point. We do have lots of knife crime, but we don't have school shootings. No, but arguably, you could say on the streets of London, so many kids that are dying are kids that are either not in school, or do you know what I mean? They're of a school-going age. I mean, okay, they lack the. I do sometimes worry with America, and I'm sort of having this thought as I've said it. The idea of having drills as kids, I think, puts ideas in some sort of kids' head. Might put ideas in some kids' heads. I don't know. And also the fact that movies are then made about them, and then documentaries are then made out about them. It's not to. I mean, none of these things ever glorify it, but the very fact of putting attention on it. Do you know what I mean? All I hope is that with each shooting in America, some rule or law somewhere endeavors to make it more and more difficult to happen again. Thank you for that contribution, though, Billy. That's intriguing, because I think, I just want to read that again. It's a really important point, just for us all to get an insight on them. As America living in the UK, previous gun owner yourself, banning weapons would only take them out of the hands of legal gun owners who can no longer protect themselves. Sadly, it's the world now. And I think you're right. Sadly, it is. I think sadly it is in America. Okay, well, there we go. We've done all our stories. I'm going to talk about. Let's do the Friday quiz, shall we? But just before that, I thought this was a funny story. Check this out. What do you think this is? Anyone got an idea what this is? Does anyone know what this is? Before we do quiz of the week, anyone know what this is? Billy Talon on that. Imagine if we didn't have drills, there would be an uproar, like if we didn't have tornado storm drills. Yeah, no, good point. Absolutely. Iron brew. No, not iron brew. Not from a flower, mo power, not urine. No. Let's just give you another little clue. Here it is in another form. Any ideas? No? Okay. I'm going to move things on. Let's if I now show you this. Oh, no, not turmeric. Good choice, good thought. No. This is bizarre. This is basically earwax. No, Julie, the singing nutcase, it's not earwax. This is tartrazine. I think that's what you call it, is it? Tartrazine, or E102, found commonly as a food dye in Doritos. And guess what? This substance can make your skin become invisible. They've just discovered, it's astonishing. I'm not going to show you the image. There's an image of a shaved stomach of a mouse, which is not nice. They found, magic trick experiment on mice has revealed blood vessels and organs which could lead to new treatments for a host of diseases. The E number found in Doritos can turn skin invisible, so scientists can look at the workings of the body through the skin. The great thing about it is it lasts for a period of time. It washes off. It's not permanent. My God. Now, there's no worry that this isn't dangerous to consume, other than, as with all E numbers, it contributes to possible hyperactivity. But yes, they've discovered this. This is just mental. Experiments revealed that tartrazine, which is also found in cornflakes and energy drinks, it's safe for consumption. It revealed that the skin's appearance changes a few minutes after the orange solution was rubbed in, and blood vessels and organs could be seen a centimetre below the surface. It makes your skin translucent, so you can look into the body. I had to wonder whether it was April the 1st. What about that, eh? I'm not going to show the image of the mouse. It's too distressing. But there we go. Okay, so let's do quiz of the week, shall we? I'm just going to get rid of all these so this screen is bigger. Boom, boom. Had a few other stories there, but we'll save those. Quiz of the week. If you're all ready, I hope you are.
Friday quiz.
Oh, God, the dulcet tones, hey. Okay, standing by, everyone. For those of you who don't know, for those of you who are new, we do every Friday, or most Fridays, or sometimes Saturdays, whenever, we do a little 7 questions of the week. Have you been listening to the news? What news stories have we missed? How many do you get right? And sometimes you will do this quiz and you'll go into the weekend feeling like a winner, but more often than not, we all go into the weekend feeling like a loser, don't we, guys? So here we go. Billy Talon. So many Talons because Sky Talon is my wife. Boom, boom. Love it. Okay, so here we go. Question 1. Former Home Secretary Dame Priti Patel was the first contender knocked out of the race to lead the Tories Conservative Party. Who won the first round of voting by MPs choosing Sunak's replacement? Was it A, Kemi Badenoch, B, James Cleverly, or C, Robert Jenrick? Now, we were going to touch on this in the week because there was a survey that said that most voters think the Tories are weird. Like, you know, the Democrats are trying to sort of promote this idea that Trump is just weird. It's quite clever. I don't think the Tories are eccentric enough to be weird. I think Trump is weird. I think Vance is weird. I don't think the Tories are weird. I think it's... Anyway, so is it A, Kemi Badenoch, B, James Cleverly, or C, Robert Jenrick? Who won the first ballot round, if you like? You're right, Robert Jenrick, C. Oh, fucking hell. Question 2. Sometimes I get sport in here. It's a bit annoying. Cricketer Joe Root hit a record-breaking 34th Test century in England's win over Sri Lanka. The batter also became the leading run scorer in Tests at Lord's, passing whose record? A, Sir Alistair Cook, B, Graham Gooch, or C, David Gower? Some Tories are very weird, Michi. You're absolutely right. But, you know, they're not weird in a kind of weird, cool way. They're just weird. Joe Root hit a record-breaking 34th century for England. Whose record has he beaten? Is it A, Sir Alistair Cook, B, Graham Gooch, or C, David Gower? Ross Souch, didn't have you down as a cricket fan. You're right. Graham Gooch, B. Question 3. 5 seabird species were added to the UK Red List of birds at most need of conservation, joining others such as the puffin. I saw a puffin in our garden the other day. It was amazing. It just sat on top of one of the sunbeds and just looked at me. Anyway, which of these species are not amongst those that are at risk? Is it A, the Arctic tern, B, the black guillemot, or C, the common gull? Which one of those is not at risk of disappearing? Hope, Susan, sorry, it wasn't really a puffin in the garden. I was being silly. Sorry. Yeah. Nan often sees an albatross in the sky, but she's, you know, losing her marbles. Was it A, an Arctic tern, B, a black guillemot, or C, common gull? Lots of you saying common gull. Morning, Marina O'Driscoll. It's B, the black guillemot is fine. Thank you very much. Question 4. Native American leaders unveiled a work of art in Oklahoma dedicated to their people's connection with Ireland. We've got lots of Irish followers here. On which tribe's land does the Eternal Hearts sculpture sit? Is it A, Cherokee, B, Chickasaw, or C, Choctaw? Native American Indians unveiled a work of art in Oklahoma dedicated to their people's connection with Ireland. I wonder what the connection is. The connection, dates back to a donation the tribe made to Ireland in 1847 to help people suffering in the Irish famine. Oh my God, I love that. Was it A, the Cherokee, B, the Chickasaw, or C, the Choctaw? Oppressed people. Supporting oppressed people. C, Choctaw. It's C. Question 5. This is a weird story. A beluga whale suspected of having been trained as a spy by Russia was found dead off the Norwegian coast. By what name was the whale known? A, Boris, B, Valdemir, or C, Vladimir? You know, I'm not kidding. It looks like Putin had the beluga whale killed. So a beluga whale suspected of having been trained as a spy was found dead. What was it known as? A, Boris, B, Valdemir, or C, Vladimir? It was on a couple of occasions seen at Itsu in Piccadilly texting. So I think it kind of was a bit of a giveaway. Yeah. It was always carrying a briefcase as well. Weird, isn't it? I mean, how can a beluga whale spy? I presume it must have just had things attached to it, right? The answer is B, Valdemir. Question 6. Team GB's most decorated Paralympian, Dame Sarah Storey, won the 18th gold medal of her career in the women's C5 road race. Dame Sarah has won 13 golds in cycling. But in which discipline did she win her first Paralympic titles? Was it A, athletics, B, equestrianism, or C, swimming? Sorry, another sport question. Team GB's most decorated Paralympian, Dame Sarah Story, won the 18th gold medal of her career in the women's C5 road race. But in which discipline did she win her first Paralympic titles? Different discipline. A, athletics, B, equestrianism, or C, swimming. Fiona Cromack Fifi's right, it's swimming. Going into the final straight. Question 7. Norwegian princess Martha Lewis and her American partner, Shaman Durek Verrett, married in a lavish wedding last weekend. A long-time supporter of alternative treatments, which of the following claims has Princess Martha not made? A, she once died for several minutes. B, she taught people to talk to angels. Or C, she was a clairvoyant. So which of those claims did she not make? She once died for several minutes. Or B, she taught people to talk to angels. Or C, she was clairvoyant. Bit of a weird one. Elaine Denning, you're on the money here. Margaret O'Brien too. Hey, you're right. It was A. Anyone get 7 out of 7? Or 6 out of 7 or 5? Anyone going into the weekend a winner? Or are you all losers? Sad, you're a loser. I'm a winner. You're all losers. Whether you got 5, 6, or 2, you're all losers. Sky Talon, welcome as a new member. Sky Talon, welcome as a new member. Mind you might hate Trump, so I do apologise. And Stacey Randall, thank you so much. 10 of you will have been gifted memberships by our dear, lovely, resident, generous person, Stacey Randall. So guys, I'm going to head off now. Have a lovely day. Something will be landing on the channel. Curly Cooks tomorrow, coffee moaning papers, and something else, a sweet treat for tonight. Bye guys. Lots of love. Bye.